Huzzah and well met once again, you firewalkers and nether negotiators. And today I have a fun set of farms for you. Well, a fun farm, anyways, but a few different varieties to teach you how to get all the blaze rods you could ever need. So, blaze rods are essential for making potions, as you need them for your brewing stand and as fuel for the brewing. But you'll also need them for Eyes of Ender to find your fortresses. They are essential for that reason. And finally, they make a very efficient fuel. And since they're essentially free if you can fight blazes all day, you have no upfront cost in fueling your furnaces, and they can handle 12 smelts at a time, or 12 smelts per item. So, without too much more fanfare for the blaze rod, let's get into this. We'll leave that there for a moment, but what we need to know about blaze spawners, and if you're a fan of my videos, you've probably heard about monster spawning before. Having an actual spawner is an entirely different animal. So this is the area around a spawner, at least a blaze spawner, that blazes can spawn in. It would be this same shape for this glowstone block all the way down to this glowstone block. And to stop a blaze spawner from spawning, surround it with a light block on all 6 sides. But for now, we'll keep it in peaceful mode, just in case it's not. Alright. So that we can work without having too much trouble from these fire elemental things. At any rate, so this is the shape. It's considered 9 by 3 or 9 by 9 by 3, or however you'd like to say it. And blazes can spawn anytime you are within 16 blocks of the actual spawner. So anytime you are within 16 blocks away from this in any direction or any combination of directions, you will start seeing blazes spawning. Up to 4 of them at a time, and it can have 6 of them total within its range before it stops spawning altogether. So, we can talk about flowing them with lava first. And in these simple farms, you are perhaps going to want some way to keep the blazes from standing on top of the farm indefinitely, because then they're not falling into your trap and being ground up into blaze rods. This particular demonstration, I've not built a trident killer on this side. There's one on the other side, and you will happily note that these are both exactly 15 blocks away from this block. So I have myself a very fun project in the near future to make a double blaze spawner farm, because I can stand right between them and have them both activating constantly. It's rather fun. I'm excited to share that one with you. But first, the basics. The blazes will flow or be floated along on lava. The problem is that they float along on lava. It isn't like water where the item falls into the water and it's pushed along by the current. Blazes will float just atop the lava. And you can do this. You can have them being pushed all to the center by the lava and pushed into a hole like this. And you can do all kinds of different things with the hole. You can expand it. You can use buttons and signs or signs upon signs to hold back the lava and push the blazes into the hole. But I find that that's actually really inefficient. They will not fall through lava, so you can't do something like this. They will just stand on top of the lava like it's a block to stand upon. For them, it is, for whatever reason. And once you get 6 blazes around this hole, or around any hole really, they tend to just hang out right at the very edge fight the current, and very rarely hop to try and get out. Also, when there's 6 of them, there's no new ones spawning and falling into place to jostle those around, and you end up with a crowd of blazes just hanging out here on the edge, not being thrust into the grinder or the trap. So I don't recommend lava flows like a pool like this to funnel them down into the center. It's perfectly legitimate if you want to flow them away somewhere once they've fallen in, but I find that they actually help each other stay out of the trap when you get 6 or so of them spawned in here. So, what I would recommend, and you probably saw it earlier, is to move down here, and we've built ourselves a trident killer inside here. And just for a quick review on trident killers, you put solid blocks in your corners, and then you will take and place, it doesn't matter if you do left or right, but on each side of this square, you will put to the left or right a piston facing inward, a solid block opposite the piston. Excuse me. And then on the one side where you're going to stand, you can use a slab. You'll throw the trident inside. You'll have to get back farther than that to get it actually inside amongst the pistons, but you get my meaning. In the corners, put droppers. Facing upwards, facing outwards, it doesn't matter. The only thing you need them for is to activate so the observer has something to observe. And droppers are the cheapest way to do this. It takes 7 cobblestone and a bit of redstone dust. Otherwise, you can use rails. Powered rails can be activated for the observer to watch, and there are a couple other blocks that allow the observer to observe them and send a signal on. So, dropper, observer observing the dropper, solid block behind it. So what will end up happening is a continuous signal will be sent around and around and around of the dropper activating, the observer seeing that, sending a signal to our solid block, activating the next dropper, and then so on and so on. It goes in a continuous loop forever. Once you're on this side, you can make yourself a cutoff switch. You heard the dropper activate when you switched it. Once you activate the dropper and are powering it via the switch, the observer has nothing more to observe from the dropper, and the signal will lock up. So this is a convenient off switch. Well, hello there, friend. Pardon me. On top of our trident killer here, you want to build concentric rings in a funnel type pattern. And you can do this as wide as you'd like, but as I've said, this is your limit for spawning. So anything outside of this is a little extra and redundant, but you might want to do a very artistic piece. I know I did, and then I found a much more efficient way to manage things. So I was a little disappointed in myself for discovering that after I'd gone to such lengths. However, we're going to place buttons on all of these. And these buttons, and you saw the buttons on the other side as well, on the edges of the hole, seem to be, to the blaze, a solid block. So, thinking that they are stepping to a solid block or floating over another solid block, they tend to just float out over buttons and crash down. And while they are capable of floating upwards, they do seem to tend to not elevate themselves very much. So this is a bit of a scant video, but there's not a whole lot to these blaze farms. Let's turn these spawners on and let you witness what we're up to here. Now, spawners do not care about you being 22 blocks away, so anything that you heard in my other videos about spawning points and spawning patterns, ignore that for now. with a spawner, if you're within 16 blocks, it is activated. Oh, right, this one's not going to be activated because we blocked everything off. We'll take this all out of the way. So the other major issue with spawners, or I should say major advantage with spawners, is that moving the enemies, I think it's only 15 blocks away from the spawner, makes the spawner think that it needs to spawn again on its next cycle. So as long as we continue to keep the blazes moving along, the spawner will keep spawning more blazes for us. Which is how we get great continuous flow into our kill chamber down there in our trident killer. So you can see them kind of doing their own thing. And we'll have more piling in. Some of them will even just fall directly from the spawner and into the trident killer. And if it was activated, they'd be taking damage. So you can keep your trident in the center, hold yourself a looting 3 sword, and get all the blaze rods you could ever need for all the smelting you could ever need. It doesn't take very long to build very many up. And I am the proud owner already of the double blaze farm, which just makes it even faster. But it did take some calculating. And I want to share that because it's not an uncommon occurrence in nether fortresses. You'll find 2 blaze spawners nearby to each other. It doesn't happen in every fortress, but it's not uncommon enough that we should ignore it. You can see we have quite an army of blazes already, and 4 more. So, without further ado, and you can see that these have fallen into the hole. Perhaps that's not low enough to get them out of the... Oh, there we go. Spawners operate on a time of roughly 10 seconds to roughly 40 seconds that they attempt to spawn. They check their surroundings and then they attempt to make a spawn. Blaze spawners will spawn anywhere from 1 to 4 blazes at a time. With a lava pool that's low enough like this that you can keep blazes spawning, you will eventually knock them into the hole. In my second attempt at this, the spawner is not high enough above our kill chamber to get that number of spawns. I need them to be falling and dragged out of the way before the spawner will continue to spawn more. So these are considerations, and I will see you in my next video on blaze spawners. This is part 1. I invite you to come watch part 2. I invite you to watch any of my videos. I have a lot of good ones. I appreciate the likes and I appreciate the new subscribers every week. I try to post weekly. It's not always successful, but here we have it. I'm making up for lost time this time too. So, without rambling on too far, I am your White Sun Paladin, and I will see you after my next quest, and I hope you are blessed on your next adventure. I hope that adventure is the next video. See you there.